Hey guys, what's going on? Jacob here. So now we know how the SQL works and how to optimize our databases to make getting data out of them quick and easy. Now it's time to hook our PHP into the database and get that data out so we can display it on a page. Again, this is going to take some work, but it'll be totally worth it in the end. And once you do it for the first time, it becomes easier and easier every time after. So let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do to connect PHP and the SQL database is to, well, in fact, connect the PHP to the database. For this, we'll be using MySQL, which is sort of a way to help us connect to the database. And before we proceed, we'll need three things: the server, a username, and a password. The server is most likely always going to be localhost, especially for local development. And you can add a user and a password for that user inside of the PHP MyAdmin. I've included a link on how to do that in the description below. Just make sure that that user has all the privileges we need for the database that we're trying to get data from. Once you've done that, in a new PHP file, add in the server name, username, and password as variables like this. Then create a new MySQL object with the server name, username, and password as parameters. Finally, check the connection by running the new object's connect_error property through an if statement. If the if statement is true, then it means that there's an error and we kill the program with the die function. Otherwise, we're good to go. One last thing. We can end the connection to the database by running the close method of our MySQL object. Once we get the database connected with our PHP, it's time to get the data out of the database. Fortunately, this part is a little bit easier. So when we created our connection, remember that we created a MySQL object. And this object has a method that will go and query the database for us. In fact, it's called query. This method accepts a single parameter, the MySQL statement that we want to run on the database. Since in this case we're wanting to pull data from the database, we'll put our select statement there. So if we're trying to get teams out of the teams table, our code in PHP to get that data would look something like this. Now that we have the data, let's go and put it on the page. When we query the data in this way, it comes back as an object. Sure, this can be a bit frustrating since it adds a few more lines of code that we have to write, but it can be very helpful as well. We'll use the num rows property to check and see if there are any rows that are actually being returned. Then we'll use a while loop to print the data. Inside the conditional part of the loop, we'll use the fetch association method to get a row of the data. Then we assign that to the row variable. This row variable is a normal associative array, and our keys in the array are the column names, and we can print it out like normal arrays. So keeping with the team example, we can print the team data like this. Well, that's all for today. Next time we'll talk about Ajax and how we can get data from a database to the page after the page is loaded. In the meantime, do you have any questions over what we went over today? If so, leave them down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. But until next time, good luck and happy coding.